Have you ever paid attention to your dreams? When was the last time that you had a revelation? How is your vision? Well, over 25 years ago, when I had to register for courses during my freshman year in college, I saw that an option was to take Greek. And I had had enough of Spanish, never really learned enough of it in high school, and so I signed up for Greek. And it began this sort of love affair with the language ever since then. Every Wednesday morning, I block off about an hour of time before our Bible study, sort of a highlight of my week, and I pull off several lexicons from the shelf, and I dig into the Greek text that we're to look at that day. Greek is a wonderfully nerdy and oddly specific language. In Greek, there are multiple different words for what we see and how we see it. There is a word for dream. There is a word for trance. There's a word for revelation. These are all similar, but different words. And then there is the word vision, horama in Greek. Vision is the word that is used to describe, for instance, the transfiguration in the Gospel of Matthew. They had a vision of Jesus being transfigured. In the book of Acts, Luke's part 2 of his gospel, horama, or visions, are all over the place. On the day of Pentecost in Acts chapter 2, a reading that we'll hear in 2 weeks' time, Peter quotes from the prophet Joel. And in Joel it says, "In the last days it will be, God declares, that I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh. And your sons and daughters shall prophesy, and your young men shall see visions. Visions, and your old men shall dream dreams." If you remember the disciple in Damascus, Ananias, though he was afraid, he was given a vision by an angel to go and see a man named Saul who had been struck blind. Ananias had been given a vision. The Apostle Peter, when he was delivered from jail, was led by an angel, and it says that he thought he was having a vision when he was released from prison. And then in our reading from just a couple of weeks ago, we read of this same Peter on the rooftop of one Simon the Tanner, who falls into a trance, different word, but he is given a vision. This vision where all of heaven is opened, and he is told not to call anything unclean that God has created. He learns from this vision that the men who are about to come and call upon him in the house to which he is called, that he is to go and to preach God's love beyond what he could ask or imagine. Peter had been given a vision. And then today, we read of the Apostle Paul also having horama, vision, in the night. Now, a vision in the night may sound like a dream, but it's sort of like an intensification of a dream. He hears a man of Macedonia calling out to him. Now, visions and dreams can be sort of an odd thing, because at first they can seem a bit blurry. I'll give you an example. Probably 10 years ago, my prescription had gotten so severe and so strong that it would no longer fit within prescription sunglasses. The curved lenses were simply too thick in order to work. And so that was the the straw that was the final straw, and I said, I'm going to look into LASIK's corrective surgery. Had to get over my fear of all of that entails. And I had the LASIK's correction surgery, and of course, for a day or two, my vision felt like there was sand in my eyes, and my vision was blurry. But slowly, over time, my distance in particular got better and better, and it took some time for that vision to come into focus. Now I have another problem of something called presbyopia, for those of you out there who have readers. Well, at first, Paul had been given this vision of a man from Macedonia. But as his vision sharpens, he finds not a man of Macedonia. He finds a wise and wealthy woman named Lydia. Though in his vision he had heard a man of Macedonia, he pays attention and his vision sharpens to see Lydia. In Philippi, this district of Macedonia. He is there on the Sabbath, and though the place is filled with temples, he goes outside the city gates by a river, a place where he supposed people might be gathered to pray. And he discovers that there is a receptive audience. People who have come not to the temple of Apollo in Philippi, but to the river of life, and they receive his words, Lydia and all of her household. Now we know that Lydia was quite a wealthy woman because she was a dealer in purple cloth, which was very, very expensive. You got purple in the ancient world either by finding some very dark berries, or, as these were sold in Philippi, I don't know how you find this out, but by crushing a snail and getting the color purple. This was a snail shell that I brought back from Greece. And so Lydia was a very wealthy woman. Her and her whole household were baptized. And after Paul was imprisoned in Philippi and released, they went back to her house and she ministered to them. So vision can be a funny thing. It can take some time for vision to come into a sharper focus. Where we might hear at first a man of Macedonia, our vision is tuned to see who is right in front of us. I think of this in terms of our own vision here at All Saints. Some of you may know our vision statement, or our vision is printed at the top of our bulletins. It's been around for a long time, and it too has gotten fine-tuned and simplified. But it is simply embodying Christ's transforming love. Embodying Christ's transforming love. This means that the bread and the wine, the body and the blood of Christ that you and I receive in the Eucharist, as we receive this bread and wine that you and I, we are becoming transformed. We are becoming embodied to go and take that body of Christ out into the world, maybe beyond the city gate, maybe to the river, to minister and to preach love to whoever may be in front of us. Now, though John, in the book of Revelation, is describing an apocalypse, a revelation, it is a very attuned, specific way of seeing beyond what our mere eyeballs can see to what the reality is, the spiritual reality is behind the veil, so to speak. Near the end of the book of Revelation, we find that it is not the believers who float up to heaven somewhere up in space, but it is the new Jerusalem that comes down from heaven, and God makes his dwelling amongst God's people. There is a new heaven. There is a new earth, the new Jerusalem coming down from heaven. As Jesus said in the gospel, we will make our home with them. We will abide with them. In the book of Revelation, there is described another river. A river that is one, not like the 4 rivers of Revelation, but then this new creation, in this new city of Jerusalem, there's a tree of life. There's a singular river that gives life for the healing of the nations. There is no more temple in this city because God is the light. God is the temple, and we will see God face to face. No longer will we need visions or dreams or trances or revelations. But as you and I are united with Christ in this new Jerusalem, we will see God face to face. We will see one another as we truly are. And in this vision, we will find ourselves healed. So what about your dreams? When was the last time you were in a trance or had a revelation? How is your vision?